Well, hello everybody, welcome back to Four Lights Wellness. My name is Omid, and today we're going to be talking about something that I've noticed in a lot of my clients over the years. This idea of what happiness actually is to them, how they perceive it in their lives, and how they don't actually go after it enough versus all of the stuff they're really getting into in the rest of the world and all of the things they worry about. What I generally just call the order of happiness. Now, the first thing I want to talk about with this is that this is not specifically to, no, you shouldn't be watching the news, no, you shouldn't care about anybody else, you should always be selfish. It's not that. But for me, and this kind of topic I've been talking about a lot in these videos lately of trauma, it tends to start thinking about us as less than and everything else as more important, more potential for a threat of some form. What it ends up doing is it starts to open up our sensors to thinking more about other people than ourselves. So when I'm coaching people through how to be a little happier in their lives, the very first thing that I ask them is, well, are you actually happy? Right? What does that actually mean is one of the first things that we start to get into. And for that, my old colleague Maslow himself had a very clear layout of this that I use with all of my clients. And so the reason why on this Four Lights channel, I talk a lot about the physiology being the fastest way to change the psychology. If the physiology itself has a problem with it, everything else that's on top of that foundation has some challenges. It's really hard to be happy at these top two or three if your body's not in the right order. And we'll get more into that later as the video goes on. But then it's, well, am I actually safe? Am I perceiving my environment as a safe place to be, right? And if that's not happening, then I'm gonna have some troubles. So on and so forth. We get to belonging and love. Do I actually have love in my life? That's a whole topic for another video. Do I actually hold myself in a good esteem? And this is what I want to spend some time on. One of the reasons why I did so much self-research into this was because I had problems with this. I started noticing that if I wasn't taking care of these bottom couple here, I started not giving as good session to a client that needed my help. I would be thinking a lot about their problem, but internally my biology was screaming for either more sleep, more water, more good food, right? Those types of things. I skipped a workout, so now I'm not showing up physically as much to them as I need to. And I knew in my own head, in my own heart, that I was not holding myself up to a high enough standard and I can't give them what I don't have. So I started taking care of these bottom three and started really changing how happy I was able to be. It increased the potential limit of my happiness. Then we get into the actualization and the transcendence. I'm not going to cover these two in this video, but this is where most people start to worry too much with these days. Let's say, for example, you're worried about the state of the world or state of politics or the state of, socioeconomic stuff, anything like that. Most of that stuff is up here when we're starting to get past the self and into the rest of the world. But then we get into this next step here. Once we kind of have these bottom three at the very least taken care of, we get our physiology actually in a right place. We have the potential to be happy. But what is actually happy making for you, right? What is something that you want to do that other people don't want to do? It's not what should, but it's what you actually want to. Some people love doing things with their hands. I just strung all these lights for my wife for a big surprise for her, and just getting my hands into wood, into concrete, into paint, into these types of things really actually was a very joyous activity for me. I didn't even listen to music when I did it. I was just creating with my hands, even drawing these little Rembrandts up on this board. For me is a very happy making thing, but some people don't care about art. Some people don't care about creation. They might be more into consumption, right? Reading philosophical books or watching documentaries, things like that. Some people might really, really get into finance because they just love numbers. But the point is, it's happy making for them. And my challenge to you is it actually happy making can start to help you to realize some of the things you're actually addicted to. Some of the things that are compulsive. For example, back in the day, I used to smoke a lot of hookah. That was my big thing. I was doing it for years. And really doing the post-mortem on that habit for me, I would say probably the first couple months that I was doing it was a lot more social based than anything else. It was with friends, having fun with friends, talking about it with friends, and then eventually it started turning into a solo act. I just wanted to get better at doing it at first, get bigger clouds, all this stuff that used to come with hookah. But then a couple of years later, and I'm ashamed and embarrassed to say that, it got to the point where I was doing 3, sometimes 4 bowls of hookah a day. And health ramifications aside, it got to the point where I just started realizing one day, I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this thing, but it's just kind of going through the motions. This is actually not joyous creation for me, so I stopped. So we want to identify what the happy making thing is for you and really bringing that conscious awareness back to things. And we're going to talk about what part of you actually does that in a little bit. And the last thing we're going to cover before we get to this bottom section here, are we actually making space and time for it? Is it on the calendar? For example, we're going to go up to a lake house and go to a fantastic, beautiful lake, do a whole bunch of water sports, everything like that. Personally, for me, I'm not the biggest water person. I love being around water, just not in it. But my wife and my daughter love the water. So we're going to go up there and do that, have a whole bunch of fun time with my family, and I'm just going to love that. It's on the calendar. It's been on the calendar for months. Same thing, in August, we have another trip that's coming up around the mountain woods. That's my own personal love, is getting out into the nature and doing that stuff. That's on the calendar. Even doing videos like this and drawing weird things like this, the happy making things, my creation projects, those are all on the calendar. And if they're not in your calendar, your order is backwards. You need to prioritize that first to really maximize your happiness. So from here, we're going to take a little detour. I, we, all is one of the models and concepts that I learned from Paul Chek, and I've applied it to my life and clients' lives over and over and over again. I, before we, always. We're getting into a little bit deeper of why this is important, but at the base level of things, when it comes to happiness, I am happy. It's got to start with that first. One of the things that I've heard a couple of times through my life is success is getting what you want. Right? If you have a goal or a dream or objective or something like that, you achieve it and you accomplish it, that's success. And you might feel happiness from that. But what if you fail? The difference between learning something from the failure and just beating yourself up like crazy is happiness. Happiness is wanting what you get regardless of what it is. Happiness is also maximizing this stuff so you can actually have the potential to be happy. Then it gets to we are happy. When I get into my friends and I, talking about the world and the state politics and stuff over hookah, it was really just about we. We were exchanging happiness back and forth. And then lastly, the all are happy. And that's really when we start to get into this little star here. That's the world. That's the esoteric. That's the all of the plants and bees and animals and things of happy, right? I am contributing to that. The biggest thing we need to understand with this is that if I am not happy first, we implies me and other, all implies me and everybody else. So if I'm not happy, I cannot satisfy these. And this is where a lot of my clients start to get in trouble. I start to talk to them about their lifestyle and what they care about in the world and everything. And there's definitely no shortage of things that people can care about in the world right now, right? You look at what's happening in the Middle East and you look at what's happening in politics right now, oh my God, there. You look at the state of the economy, you look at the state of the environmental stuff that's going on. That's cool. We can try to care about all of that stuff. But if I'm not happy in the first place, is changing any of this actually going to make me any more happy? No, it won't. You have to take care of yourself first. But once, let's say, for example, you're doing this stuff, you're calendaring your happy making stuff, you've identified the things that do and do not make you happy, you've made sure that it's something that is joyous making for you, and it changes based on your age. As you get older and grow, things are going to make you happy, and other things that used to may not anymore. It's part of life. It's part of growing. But once we get that set, then it's time for, do I help to make other people happy? And the word help in here is very important to understand. We need to go after the I ourselves, but there's a lot of other I's out there, right? My clients, for example, I'm a one-to-one guy. I'm always one person. On the other part of the screen or in front of me is another person. It's up to them to do this for themselves. I will coach them to it, but then it's almost like handing the baton to somebody else, saying, here, it's your turn. And it's up to them to be happy in the long run. It's up to them to go through these first 3 stages to try and figure out what is happy making for them, get it on the calendar, start to experience that happy, so they know how to look for it more and more and more. And then finally it gets to, do I contribute to the world happiness? And the most important thing here, the serenity prayer, right? Teach me the wisdom to know that I can make a difference or I can't, right? Is it within my power to actually do anything, right? If I take some giant world issue like the Middle East, well, I'm Middle Eastern, cool, and I can put out some videos about some stuff, but am I really going to be able to go over there and put everybody's weapons down and stuff? No, I'm not. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to be completely selfish and wall myself in and not think about it, but I need to get myself done first. And then once I do, then I can start taking care of my family and friends. Then I can start worrying about the rest of the world. And if I don't have that order in right, I'm just not going to be happy. Even if I can somehow put down all their guns, I still won't be happy about it because I'm not happy taking care of myself. And that turns into resentment, even in relationships. Last thing we're going to cover, it's 4 lights wellness. And if you ever have wondered what these 4 lights are, the light of happiness, the light of quietness, the light of diet, and the light of movement. And the reason these are so important, if I don't know what's happy making for myself, I have no idea what direction that I need to move in. Likewise, the physiology. If I don't get that physiology right in being able to move and express myself in a specific direction, I won't be able to actually go there. That's why there's 2 arrows here, right? So I can know what I want, but I can't actually move there. And the last thing with this bow and arrow analogy I'm making is the body itself, the movement is based on the diet that we actually have, our hydration, the quality of nutrition that we're putting in, the physical structure of the building blocks themselves, and the quietness to actually know, hey, I'm rested enough to be able to go in that direction. I can, see around me because I'm still enough in my focus to be able to know that that's the right direction to go. I'm able to hear the happiness well enough. So if we are not happy, we might be moving in the wrong direction. We might be eating things that are the wrong things for us. We might not be taking enough time to take care of ourselves. And now the order is backwards. So it always starts with you. I've said this over and over again to a lot of clients. I've said it in a couple of videos so far, but it's okay, especially if you have some trauma in your life, to be a little bit selfish at first. Get the I done first. Get yourself happy first. Get your house in order is another way to think about it. And then you can come back to the overall family dynamic, for example, or your colleagues and coworkers that you have to interact with on a daily basis, one-to-one. And then eventually you can start getting after the organization itself, the country, the world, the universe, the soul, the God, whatever you want to put into there. But this order of operation is really important. Again, I have a trauma-based course that goes after the physiological side of things with exercises. If you want to start there, the link in the description below. As always, I hope this information was very helpful to you. Have a happy and healthy rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.